I'm fighting my way in this industry to be seen and taken seriously because I didn't have a physique that matched the job. But I was so good at my job, I was really hard to deny. I'm willing to endure the friction until what I see becomes reality. And I won't move off of that. I know that what we are doing is so pivotal in changing the conversation and culture in bringing people mental mobility and fulfillment and longevity in their life. I will double down when none of it makes sense because I've seen it before. It's trusting that internal intuition, inherent belief, even when the evidence isn't there yet, and then waiting for it to show up.
If they can do it, I can do it. That was my mentality. And we can do it together because if one of us is low, the other one's high.
Hey, Perfect Spirit. Thanks for tuning in to the Vibrant Soul Society, The Conversations. I'm your host, Baba Sam, and they call me the Miracle Man. The mission for this show is to help you discover that you have thoughts, but you are greater than your thoughts. And beyond your thoughts is your perfect spirit, your vibrant soul. Thanks for your likes, your comments, your shares, help me getting this message into the world. And today I have a very special guest, a repeat guest. We spoke a few weeks ago and we decided that was part one. And part two will be today with Justin and Stacy because it was fascinating at the end of part one, their personal evolution that we didn't get enough time to explore and dive into. So just imagine, here's Justin here in Eastern Arkansas. He's being asked for help from Stacy in California with purple hair. Then somehow they both evolve and they come together in North Texas. So I'm really curious to dive into this today. So welcome to Justin and Stacy back to the show.
We're so excited to be here. I love the way you narrate it. This is going to be the best.
Yeah, so let's really dive into this. So Justin, you have your own business. You're in Eastern Arkansas. You're help you with what their fitness at this point.
I come from Eastern Arkansas and met my wife in college. We ended up moving back to this area, not exactly this exact town, but very close here in North Texas about a year, a little over a year after we had gotten married. And so at that point, when we moved to Texas, that's when I got into fitness because I grew up in agriculture, right? That's why my Instagram name is Farmer to Fitter because that's been my life's journey up to this point. Now we're looking more at mental fitness than physical fitness in our line of work. So we moved to North Texas and I started in the personal training industry with Orange Theory at first, little boutique fitness, doing stuff like that. Never done anything in fitness in my life other than gotten myself some results. And then I get into personal training and then it rocks along 2020. My gym shuts down, opens back up. During that period, I had established my own little corner of the internet, a bit of my online business. Fast forward, I joined forces with some friends and their online fitness company, and Stacy becomes my client. So, yeah, you were pretty close. I was already located in North Texas before she became my client, and that's where the story began.
Right. And that's where the story begins. I'll go back to your journey because I'm really curious about from farm life to the fitness industry. That's a little bit different as well. Stacy comes to you asking for help with her fitness, her well being, and she has this purple hair from California. Stacy, what was your impression? What made you reach out to Justin for that?
Well, when you want to talk about divine intervention, the foundation of who we are was not in our hands. So we're not really totally sure how I got to him because this was an online fitness company. I'd been working on my health journey for about 12 years before I got to him. I was working with a different online coach who was nice guy, super kind to me, but also too kind. He didn't know what to do with all this personality. And so I did whatever I wanted. He didn't stand a chance. So I hire this online company thinking I'm going to get to work with somebody else. And I get him. The first interaction I get is a message from him with a gif of a bear holding honey waving. And I'm like, okay, cool. All I had known about him was what I had seen on social media. And my initial thought was, why is this guy on the internet shirtless all the time? Does he not work out with clothes on? I was like, what am I going to do with this guy? What does this young guy know? Is he going to be able to help me? There's 18 years between us. So I was like, really, what does this young guy have anything to offer? And so we exchange a few messages and then we get on our first call.
Right. You hired a company and you were part of this company. Justin, is that how it worked? And you were assigned to it? How did that?
So what happened was I was a coach for this company, and Stacy found this company through a fellow coach of mine on social media. When she signed up, she was under the impression that she was going to get to work with the coach that she had found online, but that just wasn't the way that we divvied out clients, right? We put, people who we thought would fit best with the best fits, right, as opposed to like a request style. And so because of Stacy's whatever fitness history or amount of weight she wanted to lose or whatever it was, they put her with me. It wasn't an assignment of my choice or her choice. It was just they put us, that's how we accrued clientele in that business. And so, yeah, so I send her the old bear waving. It was like he's dipping his hand in honey and then waving type of thing. I send her that just as something funny as an initial message. And of course, here's what she thought about it. And then we end up getting on our first, typically it would be a Zoom call, but I think this was a FaceTime.
Yeah.
Because you were at work. You
Yeah.
were working at a bakery at the time. And her iPhone camera on the back is all cracked. So I see Stacy in this splinted light actively making whatever it was. You probably remember what it was.
I have no idea.
You usually have a detailed memory in that sense.
I was caught off guard.
And here we are talking about, hey, my name is Justin, and tell me what you want to do, and all that kind of stuff. So that's how it started.
So how'd you deal with her ways? Because you're saying her first coach was just too kind and she ran over him. How was your style different that more resonated with her?
Man, Sam, you asked such good questions. Well, here's what Stacy says. Stacy says that I knew what I was doing the whole time. I disagree. I did not know what I was doing the whole time. I knew what worked in the past. And so what I did was, as I do with every other person that I coach, is I get to know the person and I figure out what makes them tick, right? Like what's the reason they're trying to do this? What other things are influencing their life? I do my best to ask good questions. And so I asked her what I believe to be basic questions to get a sense of where she's been, where she wants to go, and all that kind of stuff. She responds with, well, here's how I'm going to allow you to coach me. So she's already guarding up, putting boundaries and everything. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm a more laid back, let you come to me style person. So I was like, all right, cool. That's how we want to do it. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't. Actually, she ended up telling me a story about her family, like what was going on in her family at the time, that she didn't intend on telling me. I didn't intend on hearing. I don't even believe that was my initial ask of you.
I wasn't feeling good. Part of our story is that my husband and I, we have 3 biological kids and 3 children that we adopted. And 2 of those adopted children have very, very high special needs. One of them had such high needs and was so dangerous they could no longer stay in our home. It's not a story that I share very often with people I barely know. I talk about it on podcasts and I teach workshops in the adoption community, but I wasn't going to tell this guy this really challenging thing that was going on in our family. And so I wasn't feeling good. We had just had a court hearing that didn't go well in regards to our daughter, and I let it slip. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not feeling great. We had court in regards to our daughter, and he goes, you have a daughter? And I went, holy crap, here we go. Now I have to tell him the whole story, and I didn't want to let him in. And that was really one of the first times that I started to allow him to really influence me, is where our friendship started to grow. I was very guarded and was like, you are my coach. I've been in this industry a long time. Coaches and clients can't be friends. Hi, how's it going over there? We also run a business together and live down the street.
There's some plus and minuses, but we've navigated it.
Yeah, we've done a great job. So it was really, my guard was down and I shared something vulnerable, and it was like, okay, now this is different.
Yeah, that's really profound. That was really good for Justin really to do his job properly, to know exactly what's going on in your day to day. Otherwise, he's
You
going
would
to
think it would.
be really tough to work with somebody that has barriers up, so you can't see their influence and their day to day.
Yeah,
Well,
I kind of feel like you really see him, sir. I can only imagine what it would be like to work with somebody like that.
there's been equal amounts of growth on both sides of the table here. What Stacy allowed me to see, if not at the beginning by accident or unintentionally, she's since then allowed me to come forth in my own way, right? Like how have me grow just like she was growing in that moment, which neither one of us knew was happening. I thought she was just telling me a story. Then she gets off the phone and was like, "Oh my gosh, did I just spill my entire
Oh
life
my gosh,
story
I have
to
such
a guy that I
vulnerability
don't even
remorse.
know?" Because we had talked like, I mean, you'd been my client for like a month.
It was horrible. Such vulnerability.
Typically, Stacy's the person that gets everybody's life story. She's not the one telling her life story. It was this juxtaposition. So that was Eastern Arkansas, Justin, purple hair Stacy, and now we're crossing paths.
Right. By sharing her story, it helped. I was like, oh, how can I best help her through this?
Not that I hadn't heard client personal stories in the past, but because of Stacy's knowledge of behavior, how trauma affects the body, how behaviors are adjusted based on what people want more of or what people want less of, and us having discussions about that. I asked her what she did, and she was like, I teach trauma informed yoga and I help people through these really challenging situations in their life. And I was like, all right, cool. I don't know anything about that. I don't know that I desire to know anything about that. I'm just doing my fitness and nutrition thing over here. And then as she educated me, informed me of how she worked with people, I was like, okay, I'll run into some of that too with my people, right? Like hard stories and how to navigate those hard stories and things of that nature. I just do what I can to navigate the situation back to, okay, well, how does this affect what you're eating, how you're sleeping, how you're moving, the things that I was dealing with as a coach. After that, me, her, and another girl at the company became really good friends initially. And then Stacy and I had the idea of working together. They brought Stacy on as a coach. Now, not only was she my client, but she was also a fellow coach at the company. That's where we started experimenting, taking these, N of ones in our different client rosters and dual coaching people together. I would do the fitness side, she would do the nervous system side, the story side, and we would go from there.
Yeah, it sounds really fascinating. So then you're working for this company, still not doing your own business at this time, but working for this other company. Then you just decided one day, hey, why don't we do this together?
It kind of worked like that. Let me paint the picture for you. I was still in the middle of my own journey with all of this knowledge, right? Mindset, behavior, nervous system knowledge, and got into the nutrition piece because it was the piece I wasn't an expert in regards to my clients. I wanted to be a well-rounded coach while still on my own journey. I'm fighting my way in this industry to be seen and taken seriously because I didn't have a physique that matched the job. But I was so good at my job, I was really hard to deny. So when is like, oh, she came on really quickly, it's because I got people to move from stuck stories and get physical results rather quickly. And so as our friendship grew and I got to know his family and he got to know my family, we decided like what would happen if you took what you were amazing at and combined it with what I'm amazing at? Would we be able to move people along faster, and not only faster, but with longevity so they'd never have to do it again? Like we could change their life and bring longevity and fulfillment in a way that it's one shot only, and they can live life as they wanted to. And he had watched me long enough because he really believed that most at first of what I did was bullshit, like very woo and
Well, more woo than I had done before.
more woo than
Okay.
what you
I
had
mean, I
done.
was skeptical, but I'm also open-minded.
And enough to watch her and go, her results are undeniable. What can I learn from her? And so I approached him and said, hey, what if we tried this out? And so within the same company, we took 6, 8, 10.
I think we took initially like three of my clients, three of your clients. So yeah,
And so we divided it and we're like, hey, let's just collect data to see if this idea that we have is even possible. And so we collected the data and it did exactly what I thought it would do. And I was the person who would get all the clients that nobody else knew what to do with. They had big trauma stories, hard to move, and nobody else had training like I had. So I got all the people who had physical ailments that no doctor could solve, that had spent tens of thousands of dollars on looking for results and had no resolve. And so I worked with them for the short amount of time. And all of a sudden, these are my words for all of a sudden, their bodies start repairing because we slowed down the story and got their nervous system to play along. We tried to do this at the company, but there was no way we could because we had very different values of how bodies transform. I also knew I could do this by myself, but I wasn't going anywhere without him. That our friendship at the point was at the place was like, hey, this is valuable to me. And our assets professionally were so in alignment and we could do so much together that I wasn't going to move until he made a move. And so as what we were doing got more popular, we saw more and more that we weren't in alignment of where we were. And so that really came to a head where we were asked, are you guys going to keep pursuing this? Because we were trying to do it in the company we were at. And we said yes. And so we were given a choice that if you continue to do this and speak and do workshops and all of this, then you can't be here. And we said, cool. Then we're so thankful that we got to be here. We will build this on our own. And we had 2 weeks, 2 weeks to go from full-time income and a full client roster to getting our LLC, getting bank accounts, and launching this on our own.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure there, but you pulled it off. So is that when you decide, were you still in California at this time and you moved very quickly to North Texas? How did this transfer go from California to North Texas?
Sure. Well, I knew, especially because we have a male dynamic, that our families had to really get along. I needed a great relationship with his wife, and he needed a good relationship with my husband for us to make this work. I had said, hey, I want to come out and meet you and your wife. This was before we had started a business. We were just friends at that time. And our first meeting in person after working together 8 months.
This was after her as my client, but
Yeah.
we hadn't left that current company yet. But yeah,
So 8 months in, before we were in business together, I came out and visited him and his wife. And the first time we ever met each other in person, we actually rolled jujitsu together.
yeah.
If you want to test a friendship and see if you're in it to last, first thing you should do is roll jujitsu. So I got to hang out with him and his wife and get to know them. I decided I want to invest more time in getting to know them as well. So I came back. He was going out of town for a guy's trip. And I'm like, let me spend time with Paige by myself. Her and I got to spend a week together and we were drinking wine. She's like, you should move here. And I was like, cool. So we're sitting in bed, drinking wine, watching TV, now shopping for houses here. And my husband calls and goes, what are you girls doing? I said, looking for houses. We're going to move to Texas. And he's like, cool. And when I say stuff, my husband knows like, oh, this is likely happening. Because if Stacy says it, we're doing it. And everything works together in ways that work that out. And I started to strategize that we could do this states apart, but we really needed to be together, not only in proximity, but the creating a financial legacy for my family is that California was so expensive and I couldn't see a way to do this well and shift the dynamics for our financial future. And I was like, this makes sense. And I wanted out of California to come back to a small town. I wanted to be in a small town again. And so as our relationship grew and our family, we took vacations together and all of that, I was like, this is our next move. There was a strategy to it that other people will say that it's quick, but I talked about it for 2 years before we actually made the move.
Yeah. So
But to everybody else, they're like, oh my gosh, that was so quick. I'm like, you just weren't paying attention. I've been talking about this for 2 years.
Right. So you were planning, putting pieces in place for 2 years, mapping things out. And part of you was actually working on this plan and just putting these pieces together. When you look back, it was this divine timing. There's no randomness in the universe. Everything aligns as it needs to align. And you were putting the pieces together without knowing that you're putting the pieces together.
I remember that trip when I came to hang with his wife for a week. We were sitting on the couch talking about building the business while we were still at the other company. And we thought we had 2 years. We thought that, we'll stay here. This is really safe. We're really good at where we're at. We've got great influence. We'll talk about leaving possibly in 2 years. And it was so funny because it was not 2 years. It was 8 months later.
Yeah.
It was not 2 years. And so you're right. How you think it's going to go is very different. If you would have asked me if I would ever move to Texas, the answer would have been no. If you would have told me that this would be any thing that it is. I would have been like, you're crazy. And even so much that when we were moving here, I had one rule. I was like, I will not live in the same neighborhood. So I looked at so many other houses and all of them were crap. And this was the last one. And I didn't want to look at it. I'm like, I can't live down the street from you. We can't be best friends and work together and have our families do everything together and live down the street. And he had come with me to look at all the houses. And we walked into this one and I looked at him and he looked at me. I'm like, shit, it's this one. And it turned out to be where I'm rigid. He really invites a lot of flexibility. It was the best move. This was the perfect house at the perfect time we needed it. And it's worked out so much better, both personally than professionally, than we could have imagined.
Mm. It's really good that your husband was on board with this too, and your children had to relocate. Is a big change for everyone. That evolved the house in a very interesting way from California to North Texas.
Here's what I will tell you about my husband. We've been married for almost 27 years this year. It's not the first time that I had a dream or a vision over 30 years when there's something on my heart and on my mind that I won't move off of, that I know, and I can't tell you how I know. I just know, and I'll be patient in the pursuit. The challenging part, and this is what I love him for, is I run ahead and he's like, hey, girl, slow down. And I'm like, could you just catch up already? And so, having done this multiple times in our marriage, this was likely the riskiest move we've made because there was so much on the line at the time in our family. We had kids graduating, we left two kids in California, we have a special needs kid at home. He couldn't get work here. So I made this big step of faith and risk moving our family to Texas with his vision. He couldn't get a job here for a year. He's only been here for 3 months. There was a lot of friction. When is this going to pay off? And I'm like, just hang with me. I see it and time hasn't caught up yet. He's so good because he's had evidence of all the times it's worked out before of going, this is brutal. I trust her and I'm scared. And he always comes along.
Yeah, because he just had to hang back in California to the other pieces start to fall into place. Okay, we can make this happen now.
Yeah. So we did almost a year apart of him commuting back and forth, of keeping his job in California and just coming here for 4 or 5 days at a time, waiting for the door to open up. And the perfect door did.
It's the way it usually works, that the perfect door opens up, that the mind likes to grow impatient, like this isn't
Oh,
going to work. But if you
yes.
just hang in there, then eventually things click.
And when you get on the other side of it, I love that you brought that up because I know people have watched my husband and I story for years and they're watching our business story and personal story play out. I wake up with the long game in mind and I have a high tolerance for friction, but my vision is so clear. I'm willing to endure the friction until what I see becomes reality. And I won't move off of that. The challenge is it gets to be lonely there. Not everybody sees what you see. And you get the naysayers of, no, this isn't going to work. Or how could you do that? So I didn't leave room for other people to speak doubt to the best of my ability. There were times that doubt creeped in and even he got to see it a little bit. But I was like, I know that what we are doing is so pivotal in changing the conversation and culture, in bringing people mental mobility and fulfillment and longevity in their life. I will double down when none of it makes sense because I've seen it before. It's trusting that internal intuition, inherent belief, even when the evidence isn't there yet, and then waiting for it to show up. When you see it, holding on to it, because what you pay attention to, you get more of.
Yeah, it's a really good point. So from your perspective, Justin, when she was going through all this stuff and you see how the business was going very slowly, how was your mindset? What was your perspective seeing this? Will this come together or not?
That's a great question. The initial thought when we first got started in business together, Stacy has a way, like she said, of seeing a vision and then instilling confidence in the pieces necessary to see the vision through or get to the next step. I had started my own company before solo during that 2020 time period when I wasn't really working in the gym, had that extra space and time. And I knew how hard it was to do it on your own. And that was the reason that I joined the other company in the first place, because I was like, I know that pieces that I'm good at, they take care of the pieces that I'm not. And so this seemed like a good fit. Well, then once that wasn't a proper fit anymore and me and Stacy were starting on our own, I was like, okay, well, looks like you're going to have to go back to the drawing board and see those places that you weren't good at and work on those things moving forward, right? Work on those pieces that you need to be better at, or that you're going to have to be confident of if you're going to have an income. And so in my mind, it wasn't if it would work or not. I knew it would work. It was, what does it look like along the way as we step forward in this work? Stacy did a great job in instilling confidence in me that, like, hey, you're actually better at this than you think you are. You just have never gotten a chance to practice it. You just never gotten a chance to move forward with it. Stacy has made two, three, four big moves, not just physically, like from this state to this state, or this house to this house, or whatever, or biological children, adopted children, all that. She's also got a way of conveying confidence in you to be like, hey, there's something in you that you don't quite see, but I see a version of, and I've seen it before, right? If you just hang with me, we can do this. I'm okay with it being messy. And whereas she is more of a waking up with the big picture in mind, that's why we work so well together. That is not the way I wake up. I wake up with what needs to get done today. So she's very much the visionary. I'm very much the implementer, right? And so her version is very messy, and my version is very, how do we need to keep our ducks in a row? She was catching friction on vision because she didn't have a decent structure of a plan to go forward. She was just like, hey, I want to go do this, so let's run through it.
That's accurate. A lot of collateral damage.
Whereas I have a more calculated approach. I still might not know what it's going to look like, but I know what I need to do next. It's just like whatever we need to do next. In the establishment of our coaching practice, of our business, I was like, okay, I just came from a company of people that I know don't know that much more than me, right? Like they got an earlier start than I did, and so they had some solid footing, and so were able to grow a business and have a team of coaches to some degree and all that. If they can do it, I can do it. That was my mentality. And we can do it together, because if one of us is low, the other one's high. Even during that time of starting a business together, we adopted a color system to communicate where each of us were, since we were 2 states apart. So remember, that's 2 hours time difference, Pacific time, Central time. And so we would get on the phone at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, and that's 6, 7 o'clock in the morning her time, or like on Zoom calls or whatever it was. Because we're not right next to each other, at the time, we established a color system. If you're green, like, hey, you can mess with me, we can crack jokes, we're good to go. It's higher energy, right? If you're yellow, I'm still can tolerate certain points of friction, but tread lighter. You don't have to walk on eggshells, but I'm not 100% today. And then if we're red, it's like, hey, whatever you need me to do at the bare minimum today, that's what I've got the capacity for. And anything else is going to have to wait until later. Very rarely were we both at red on the same day, but we would start the day with like, hey, where are you at right now? Are you green? Are you yellow? Are you red? Because we weren't sitting right next to each other to assess that stuff in person. And Stacy's very good at getting on camera and acting like she's put together when everything behind the camera could not be so put together. The piece of her being vulnerable and being honest with me, and vice versa, me doing that back to her, is going, yeah, you know what? I'm not green today. I have to admit I'm yellow. And it didn't matter what the reason was. We just worked to the best of our ability to not be red on the same day, because that was something our business couldn't afford at the time. If you're red or you're getting close to red, let's establish a baseline here so that we can both move forward together. And that's what we've done ever since.
Well, it's a great system to see each other's strengths and weakness, if you want to call it that, where somebody's an implementer, somebody's a visionary. So both are implementers or both are visionaries. That would create so much friction. Okay, these are the steps that we're doing today. This is the big picture. And that works, I think, perfectly. And we see now you have a successful business that you're building together, and everything's clicking and moving along. And I'm really looking forward to getting this out into the world. Most people just see the end result, but they don't see how you got there and all the pieces and steps that had to move there. And it just reminds me of my own story coming to New York City, how this divinity works together. I was at a conference. I'm like, what should I put for my address? And I put New York City, even though I wasn't living here, because about 8 months later, I'm in the city. And it wasn't me planning things out, all this divine timing. And that's what we see with you two here, Justin and Stacy, divine, just moving all these pieces. And we just have to hold back and be patient and say, I'm doing what needs to be done. The pieces are falling into place. Life is working out. So it's really beautiful. So thanks for joining me again. If people had questions for you, how would they reach out?
Yeah, so the easiest way to get a hold of us is on our Instagrams. That's where we spend the most time right now. Like I said earlier, I am at farmer to fitter, not the number, but the letters, farmer TO FITTER, Farmer to Fitter. She is Stacy J. Hansen, HANSEN on Instagram. I'll give you the link to put in the show notes of our actual website, our actual landing page. It's fortifyhealth.co/FHC to find what we're currently doing, like to apply for coaching or if we have a current webinar coming up, a resource guide or anything like that. So that's the easiest ways to get a hold of us. Or you can contact us via email too. That's just as easy. Contact@fortifyhealth.co.
So I encourage everyone to reach out if you're looking for a nice dynamic team that has a really diverse background, and they could really maybe help you sort out this confusing life that we all live. Thanks again for joining me. I really appreciate you coming back for part 2.
Thank you so much for having us.